Victory to love, the love inside your heart. Victory to the light that shines in your mind. Earth, sky, and stars, 10,000 suns.
Namaste. Hi, welcome to the Shaman and the Mermaid, and we're bringing you your astrological forecast for October 20th all the way through November 19th. And we're actually going to talk a little bit into 2022, all the way through February, but just a little hint because the energies that are happening through late October and into November are vibrating through December, January, February, so it's good to have that look under the horizon of what may be unfolding here. But we're kicking off with an Aries full moon, and we're coming into the portal time of the veil.
Yes, and that leads us to our intention, because the veil is lifting between the two worlds at this time of year. Scorpio season has that energy about it that is for transformation. It's a portal into the other side, the underworld, the above world. And so as we come into this, we decided to kind of talk about that portal a little bit more and made that the theme. The portal is open and intention is everything. And we'll kind of try to explain what that means more specifically as we get through some of the bigger things coming up. But basically, in a nutshell, as the portal opens, you're going to have a lot of choices that you can make, and choose wisely and stay in integrity, and your intention behind those choices will navigate you to the other side of this portal or this wormhole or through the veil, and you want to arrive on the other side in one piece and safe and sound and in high vibration. So the essence to getting there in that way is your intention. It's everything. And so what does this mean? Why do we say all this about a portal is open? And the middle of this report is mostly where those heavier days are of portal open. And that's where you'll find Halloween and All Souls, All Saints Day, Dia de los Muertos, Samhain in the Celtic tradition. That comes right around October 31st through November 2nd, and that's when the portal's the strongest. So at the beginning of this report, at the full moon, October 20th, we're moving into that, the portal starts to open. And Michael has a great analogy of a camera aperture. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
As we were talking about this, if you've ever seen an old-time camera, one with a lens, when you take the picture, there's the aperture of the lens, and it opens up like this when the photo's taken, then it closes back in, but there's a tiny pinhole in the middle, and we felt that this energy of this time is something akin to that, where it seems like there's a blockage and an obstacle, and then the portal spirals open for a moment, and there may be chaos all around, but that center line of the lens, or your vision, or your intention, is everything, is going to take you through this time from basically October into 2020 and beyond. But keeping that vision of stay steady through that aperture opening of the camera lens, or Katrina even used a tornado analogy, like the center of the tornado and everything spiraling. One is going up the tornado, the camera lens, I guess, is pointing horizontal.
So keeping your focus in this, big energy movement time, whether you think of the tornado or the camera opening, in Michael's analogy of the camera, as he's saying, when it's a small little pinhole, you can easily see what you're focused on because everything's blacked out around it. But as it opens, you start to lose that sight line because there's so much distracting you that's in your visual field. And the trick at this point is to keep that sight line, as he was saying, and setting your intention. And really, as he alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, this time that we're in now, this month that we're talking about, is kind of the prologue for what is coming to be in 2022 2022. It's going to take us into 2022, and then the story unravels. So we're in the prologue part, and so your intention at this time is kind of the seed setting or seed planting for what manifests for yourself in 2022. Because towards the end of this report, we come into eclipse season that's going to spiral on into 2022. So we want to really get a strong focus at this time as we're going through the tunnel or through the portal, as we're calling it. And so set your sights on things that are beneficial, nurturing, self-care, and looking out for the good of the whole as well. You know, your intention doesn't just have to be personal to you, it could be a collective intention as well. So I kind of, when it comes to intention setting, especially for big energy shifts like this, you know, every new moon we set an intention. That's a typical time to set intention. This is a little off that. This is actually kicking off on a full moon that we're saying this, taking you to a Scorpio new moon, which is, you know, we've already said Scorpio's that transformative energy. So as you arrive on that Scorpio new moon, you could actually take the seed setting or intention setting at that particular time and use these couple weeks before it to cultivate and start gathering what it is that your sight line's going to be to focus on as you move through the portal. But you can already feel it. You already feel the veil lifting, the energy shifting, and you know, some will say, well, that's just fall. That's just the cooler air coming in and the crispness and the leaves falling off the tree. Yes, and it is that. The dying season and the shift of weather, but there's also an energetic shift that we can feel too. We can feel the ancestors, we can feel the karmic energy floating in. All of that comes through the portal at this time when the veil lifts, as we say. So, you know, if you have an idea what your intention for this time is, set it now and start focusing on it. Get in practice of looking through and finding that sight line that is so imperative at this time. So let's talk about what's going on. You want to start with the big squares?
Sure. It pretty much, it's boom, boom, boom. October 20th, October 21st, and October 22nd is like the whole kickoff or opening of that portal, even though it's resonating now. The full moon is in Aries on October 20th, and so it means the sun and the moon are in opposition. Sun is in Libra, moon is in Aries. But what makes this a particularly potent full moon is that Pluto is between the sun and the moon, squaring both. And the square is a dynamic challenge or a call for evolution or change. And Pluto is the planet that rules Scorpio. As we go into Scorpio season, this is where Pluto feels most powerful, most potent, and Scorpio is the most intense of all the signs in the wheel. And we've been going through this 2-year, 3-year purification process starting back in 2020. 2021 was the death and letting go of lots of things, and 2022 is the year of transformation, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's stable yet, but things are altering their state of being, and Pluto is going to rule all that. So this full moon is all about that Pluto energy, Scorpio energy, or you could say Shiva energy, which is destruction and creation. And the sun and the moon represent your personal selves. The sun is your outer self, who you show up in the world as, and the moon is your inner self, your intuition. And Pluto is the force of evolution, squaring both of that. And so for you personally, it's saying, are you doing your evolutionary work, and are you tuning into the soul? For the collective, it's basically the same question. The next day, did you want to say something about that?
That's good.
Is Aries and Mars, brother and sister, gods and goddesses of war, are squaring Pluto also. They're in the same position as the sun and the moon, and so this is sun and the moon square Pluto, Aries and Mars square Pluto. And Aries is the goddess of discord and manslaughter and forgetfulness and famine and disease, and Mars is the god of war and of revenge and of all the things that you put out to defend yourself. They're both squaring Pluto, and I think we're feeling this, not think, I know we're feeling this. People are feeling high emotions, anger, resentment, loss, isolation, and there's a rise and a boiling. Mars and Aries both rule the blood, by the way. There's a rise in the blood. You know, people are wanting justice and revenge, or justification of what has happened to the planet over the past 2 years and what is continuing to unfold. And that Pluto square is intensifying it by saying this has to evolve. Something has to break or change. Now the next day, the sun goes into the sign of Scorpio, and it's in Pluto's home territory, and this really kicks off that death season when the life force comes out of the trees and goes into the roots, and the veil is open. Now, one last little seed, if I may, put in there, that we're going to be doing an astrology report for 2022 at the end of the year, so you can tune into that, and we'll talk much more about this. But the year of 2022 is a karmic reckoning for the United States of America. Let me say that again. The year 2022 is a karmic reckoning for the United States of America. Why? Because the planet Pluto takes 246 years to take a full revolution back to where it was. And in 1776, Pluto was at 27 degrees Capricorn, and in 2022 in February, Pluto will return to 27 degrees Capricorn. What does that mean? Well, when a planet has a return, it's a karmic check-in to say, did you do what you said you would do at a soul level? And so this is checking in with the Declaration of Independence, of freedom for all people, freedom of speech, the right to pursue liberty, happiness, and all people are created equal. Are we doing that right now? Or is there segregation and isolation of certain peoples? Are we treating everybody fairly? Or are we making different classes and apartheid in society at this time? The Pluto check-in will see how this is.
Oh, I'm a little worried about that check-in, because from my vantage point, it doesn't seem like the Declaration of Independence is being upheld to its highest mark. And so I think what we'll see on that, the karmic ramifications of that, is not too pretty. So again, as we're going through, I said this is a prologue for 2022. This is kind of the beginning feel, the appetizer, if you will, of what's coming down for the main course in the next year. And if this is any indication of what we're going to see in 2022, what we're doing right now as a collective society, we need to quickly get our sights on a higher mark, because we are in so much division, so much duality, so much contention, so much segregation. Hegemony, isn't that the word?
Hegemony.
Hegemony is the word that Michael threw at me the other day. I had to go look it up, still can't even say it. But it's this apartheid kind of energy, and that is the opposite of what the Declaration of Independence was established for. And so, as he just mentioned, we open up this report with these huge squares with Pluto, the Sun and Moon squaring, Aries and Mars squaring. Pluto is he called it the evolutionary force. It's what makes us evolve. It's saying, come on, you got to keep churning on that wheel of evolution. You can't stay stagnant and stuck in your old ways. So these pieces are in place to help us kind of move forward into this next evolute of our species. And we can choose wisely or we can choose wrongly, and we'll pay the consequence for whichever way we choose. And there's that individual choice that we can make, and we can do the best that we can for our own selves, and then know that that choice that you make individually layers into that collective consciousness. And there's a critical mass tipping point. If enough people choose in the same direction, that kind of leans the whole prospect towards that way. It doesn't have to be unilaterally everybody making the same choices. It's the lion's share, or just enough past center to make it tip to that favor. So when you think you're just a drop in the bucket and you won't make a big difference, hold that thought. and maybe take a leap of faith and trust that your drop in the bucket is what's going to tip it just to the way that we need to go to rise in our consciousness, to lift ourselves out of this density of duality that we're living in and lift us up into a higher plane of consciousness that is a little bit more benevolent for all people, that includes instead of excludes people. That's where we need to go, and that is the push that we're in at this time collectively. And Scorpio energy, we're going to have a new moon in Scorpio. As Michael said, the sun's moving into Scorpio on October 22nd. This is transformation energy. And he already said the year 2022 is the year of transforming ourselves. So again, we're in the prologue, we're in the beginning stages of it. We get to set the tone at this time as we move into Scorpio. What needs transformed? What needs to be radically ratified in your life right now? And I know, just looking around on superficial levels, I've got a lot to do in my own home with like changing out old artwork, old furniture pieces, superficial stuff like that. You could look at it like that is a way to transform energy, the physical, tangible stuff in your life. But then go deeper. What can you transform on a thought level that is an old, stuck piece of thinking in your mind that is no longer serving? It's time to let it go and let it burn to cremation. That time of year right now is destruction, cremation, the death of things. And then simultaneously, it's also the phoenix rising. Out of those ashes of that burned energy that we're letting go, we have a new rise, a new dawn, a new day of being. And that's really what we need to do. So back to the intention, the portal is open, and intention is everything. Starting to formulate what it is that you want to transform, what it is you want to focus on for this next year, for your own personal evolution of your soul. Michael, again, he said that Pluto is that evolutionary force that kind of pushes us and nudges us to change or evolve our ways. And I want to add to that in addition to it having that energy, it represents our soul self, the part of our soul self. So I used kind of a superficial analogy of transforming the house a little bit. But on a soul level, that's what we're looking to. And if you're familiar with, this is a time for shadow work, of looking at some of those deeper ingrained thought patterns that we don't want to address, that haunt us a little bit, that we ignore, deny, reject, even gaslight about, and say that's not true, I don't do that, I don't know what you're talking about. But deep down at a soul level, you know exactly what they're talking about, and you did do it, and you did do it. That kind of stuff, this is a time to start working with it. And it could be very challenging, but it's the death of the thing, because this is the time for the death of those things. So be brave and let yourself go into that deeper therapeutic work of pulling out some of these demons that dwell inside you, your own demons that you've created. And then this is also a great time. I'm speaking of those self-inflicted shadows that we put in, but sometimes our haunts are not self-inflicted. Sometimes our haunts that we carry inside and bury and don't want to look at are from outside forces that hurt us. And so they just fester in there as a wound that we keep pressed down and bury. This is a time, again, for you to let that come up and out and practice a little forgiveness, practice letting it be something you're willing to look at and acknowledge that it's there, and look at how it has affected your life and your patterning in your life. This is a time to let it move on out, to be the death of that thing. Instead of a festering wound, let's let it be gone. And so bravery is an important piece at this time. You know, it's scary during Halloween. You go out there and it's meant to be spooky and it's meant to haunt you a little bit. So stepping into our courage and facing our fears. Metaphorically, that's what Halloween does, and that is the energy of the season in general. So we're moving along. We have then a couple other aspects. You want to jump into those?
Sure. Just mentioning them quickly, we have Venus squaring Neptune on October 27th, and that is the personal version of love squaring the transpersonal version of love, or self-love versus universal love. And this is a day to check in, like, am I tuning into loving myself, accepting myself, and doing things that are aligned with my soul, or am I making choices to please others, to please society, to please the media, to please whatever my parents say? It'll be a little bit of you'll be able to see where you've made those choices that day, or an opportunity to raise and transform and step into your true intention and integrity and choose wisely. On October 30th, Mars goes into Scorpio. Mars is very comfortable in Scorpio. He's empowered there. So that power of self-will determination is empowered in the world of mysticism, unseen. And Scorpio is about churning up things that have been hidden in the dark. And when Mars is here, the warrior is not afraid to go into the Shadowlands and pull out the lies, the mistruths, the things that have been served up that are not in integrity and not in right intention. That same day, the Sun is squaring Saturn on October 30th, and so Saturn is karma and justice and rules of law, and Sun is illuminating where things may have not been in alignment. Then we come to the official mark of the veil transformation.
Right. So that's that Halloween Eve, or Hallows Eve, Samhain, and that's October 31st. And then that energy carries through November 7th, where November 1st is All Souls Day, November 2nd, All Saints Day, Dia de los Muertos is at that time, and this is where we honor the ancestors, those who have passed before us. We take time out and make our altars or show our grace towards them, have our reverence in whatever way that you do so, but we take pause to attune to their energies, whether it's just acknowledging them and setting a candle out for them, or sitting in a deep meditation and asking for their guidance and let the messages come through, because the veil is open. It's so much easier for them to come through at this time. And we make a whole Dia de los Muertos altar for our grandparents. I love that tradition in Mexico. And we have our version of that here, and let the candles be lit. And we kind of set that off around that full moon in October 20th. On the Aries full moon, we'll start to set up the altar, let it be lit and going all the way through, and then even a little bit past, about a week past that, November 1st and 2nd day, we let it stay up and hold that space so that the messages can come through. And again, we keep that sight line on our intention, because the energy is so big at this time with the veil open, and all these energies coming at you, whether it's the ancestors that you know and love and trust, or your spirit guides and angels coming through, or any of the other nefarious energies that can come through. And so it's really important to shield and bubble and protect. Your free will keeps you safe. All you have to do is say, only those energies that are for my highest good are allowed into my field. And say that on the daily, particularly during this time, but every day throughout the calendar year. It's a good thing to do, a good practice. But particularly while the veil is thin, set that bubble of protection. Only those energies for my highest good can surround me. And then you just sit with that for those few days. And then on the other side of the veil, or on the other side of that particular hot spot of the veil being at its ultimate, we come into the new moon in Scorpio on November 4th. And there's an extra little bonus, you could say, that comes with that new moon. You want to talk about it?
Yes, from the November 4th new moon in Scorpio through November 13th, I think it's going to be particularly weird, unpredictable, and erratic, and also sudden shifts of energy going one way and then the other. Why? Because the planet Uranus is opposing this new moon, and a bunch of other planets will then continue on to oppose Uranus, which includes Mars, Mercury, and the Sun. And Uranus rules sudden awakenings, releasing of energies that were previously unknown, shock, lightning strikes, shifts of things in ways that the mind could not even predict. And our friend and astrologer Rick Levine says, it's predicting the unpredictable, or expect the unexpected during that time. And so we just think that things are going to get particularly weird during that portal. I'm not commenting on whether it's good or bad, because Uranus's job is to awaken people, to make their consciousness come higher. Another way to say that, it brings more of the soul to the ego, or more of Pluto to the sun self. And during those days, just be aware and keep your eye through that aperture. The portal is open and intention is everything, and stay through that center line.
Go ahead.
The one day that I think is particularly interesting to look at would be November 10th during that whole shift, when Mars and Mercury come together and they both square Saturn. Do you want to say something about that?
No, go ahead. I know what you're going to say. You'll say it well.
Mars and Mercury are in Scorpio, and Scorpio is what has been hidden, what has been pushed down in the dark, suppressed. Saturn is the patriarchy, the ruling class, the government, the laws, the rules, the impositions, the medical institutions. And this may be a day, whether it's actually on that day or it's hindsight, and we look back and be like, whoa, what dropped that day had a big impact on the future.
Good. I'm noting all this energy in Scorpio. So you have Sun in Scorpio, you'll have Moon in Scorpio, you'll have Mercury in Scorpio, and Mars in Scorpio as well. And we want to just pay attention when things are rattling with that death and destruction sign, kind of transforming and burning it to the ground, and Uranus at the opposite end, opposing it and throwing its lightning bolts at it to add into the rattling of the cage. That the important piece is to stay on that singular focus. Your intention is everything. So whatever day you choose to set intention for this portal time, once you do, daily focus on it. Don't lose sight of the target. That is what will keep you from flying out into outer space, losing your mind, going bonkers, getting upset, or emotionally rattled. That's a really big piece of what can happen. And then you'll come through it on the other side. Everything will start to settle a little bit on the other side of that energy. However, as we come to the close of this report and it ends on that Taurus full moon, that Taurus full moon will be the beginning of eclipse season. So we'll have an eclipse on that day, a partial lunar eclipse on November 19th, which is the Taurus full moon. And then there will be another eclipse following that, a solar eclipse on December 3rd. So eclipse season is, it's not the same kind of chaotic rattling of things so much, but it's cutting things. It's just, after the carnage and the wreckage of stuff, it's the cleanup crew that's going to come in, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. It got scooped away. It's going to get scooped away. So it's a good thing, like sometimes you have that old mattress in the garage and you're glad to hear cleanup day is coming and you can finally toss it out and the company's going to come and take it all away. So look at it like that. Any baggage, energy that you clear out during this time, it can get cleaned up through these eclipse portals that are coming, that will take us into 2022. But in the meantime, focus on your intention. The portal is open. Preparatory work for that Samhain Eve, where you can set ceremony, or in those 3 days, October 31st to November 2nd, for connecting to the ancestors, download their wisdom, keep your eye on the target. Intention is everything. We'll see you at the Taurus full moon, November 19th.
Namaste.
Victory to love, the love inside your heart. Victory to the light that shines in your mind. Earth, sky and stars, 10,000 suns shine within us all. Give praise to the one. Victory to love, the love inside your heart. Victory to the light.